All right, we are back, almost on time. And moving on to item 11, committee reports. Are there any committee reports that anyone would like to share? I don't think anything was turned in. Hearing none, we will move on to item 12, consensus items. Item A, personnel report. Dr. Burns.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the personnel report is presented this evening for your consideration. Approval is requested.
All right, you've heard the recommendation from Dr. Burns. Is there a motion to approve the personnel list as presented?
Move to approve, Mr. Boyer.
Is there a second?
Second, Stephanie Adams.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Bowie?
Lisa Estep,
Aye.
David Wortman, Stephanie Adams,
Aye.
Nelson Boyer,
Aye.
Judy Justice,
Aye.
Jeanette Nichols, Bill Rivenbark,
I'm unmuted.
Miss Nichols,
I'm unmuted now. Aye. Thank you.
and Mr. Rivenbark.
Are here.
Aye. Aye.
All right,
Can
motion.
y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Coming through loud and clear.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Item 13, old business. Item A, policies for second reading. Ms. Nichols?
Okay, we have 12 policies for approval tonight. Mrs. Stagner, can we present them all, and if there are no objections, then vote on them as a group?
Yes, you can certainly do that, Ms. Nichols. I did notice that 2130 is on there, and I think that should not be.
Yes, I've already pulled that one. And also the last one that is listed as 2410 is actually 2140. So that was just a typo. So when we get to that one, whomever's pulling them up, go ahead and pull up 2410, but it will be 2140 when we get to that one. Okay. So the first policy is 2000, operational goals of the board. Now the first one, we're going to take them in order. 2000. We have no comments. We'll move right along to policy 2010, board and superintendent relations. The next policy, 2100, board member legal status. The next one, 2110, board member elections. The next policy would be 2115, unexpired term fulfillment. The next policy would be 2116, removal from office. If I'm going too fast, just let me know, please. The next policy, pardon?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The next policy is 2121, board member conflict of interest. That one is rather involved. If you see, we have 3 pages of it, so.
I haven't accepted a gift from anybody for being on the school board.
Really?
No, I
Well,
kind of.
you'll probably receive something at your door tomorrow from some appreciative person. Okay. The next policy, 2122, role of board members in handling complaints. This is one that we really need to keep handy so that we can follow the procedures and ensure that everyone is heard. Okay. The next policy, 2123, board member opportunities for development. And Mrs. Stagner will need to do a cross-reference of the board members' compensation and expenses that we discussed today at the policy meeting, and that would be policy 2130. So when we get to that point, we can make sure that that's a cross-reference.
I'll make a note to let Ms. Osborne know.
Okay, thank you very much. The next policy, 2125, confidential information. The next policy, which is rather involved, is 2127, board member technology use. And that's 5 pages, so there's a lot in there that we need to constantly refer to ensure that we are following policy and the law. And the last policy for your consideration, which was listed as 2410, is actually 2140. Defense of board members and employees. And you can see the 7610 represents, it will be also in for personnel. So at this time, I ask that we approve all 12 policies or adopt them for the revised manual.
All right, thank you, Ms. Nichols. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve these 12 policies as presented?
Move for approval. Mr. Boyer?
Second, Bill Rivenbark.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Ms. Eastep,
Aye.
Mr. Wortman, Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Boyer,
Aye.
Ms. Justice, Ms. Nichols,
Aye.
and Mr. Rivenbark.
Aye. And I might add, a lot of work goes into this from Ms. Stagner, the school board, North Carolina School Board, Jeanette. It's a lot. It is a lot of work to just bring it here and say, what do you think? So thank you for everybody.
Get that $25 an hour would be okay.
$25 an hour, that's right. A meeting,
A meeting, oh, okay.
All right, thank you. The motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Nichols. Item B, renaming Parsley Elementary School. And my name is on there. But again, I believe this is a discussion for the full board. We did discuss this last month, and I believe we've had some further dialogue with some different relatives of the Parsley family. What you see attached to this item, you see some of the things that we had last time, which is the deed. You see, you see the board minutes from the time that the sale was made. You also have a letter from 2 individuals that are part of the Parsley family. And I don't know if you all would, I can certainly read the letter, but I think you all can read it for yourselves. One of the individuals that wrote in is the Right Reverend Henry Nutt Parsley Jr., and then Mr. Robert Aubrey Parsley III. I believe both of these individuals live in Wilmington. I know, Mr. Rivenbark, you mentioned the fact that you believe that the school was not named for the grandfather.
That's right.
However, that does not, there seems to be equally strong evidence that, in fact, it was named for the grandfather, and in fact, the information in the lobby of the school does say that it was named for the grandfather. So I think that whether or not it actually was, the perception is there, and that is not going away. So the question before the board to me is, what do you do now? Where I think we do.
I think what the elder Parsley did was represent, it's just terrible. But you can't punish the rest of his family for the rest of their life. And I don't think that was named after him. And one of the Parsley family suggested that we change it to Parsley Elementary, which is what it is. That's what everybody calls it. And that's the way I will vote. But I understand if anybody else wants to vote the other way. I completely understand it. But I think that it should be named Parsley Elementary. I'm done.
I guess I would say that, to an extent, because these names are the exact same, the perception has become the reality. And knowing the reality of the 1898 Walter L. Parsley, I can't turn from that. And that's me personally. I just can't turn from that. I can't know what I know and know the pain that it causes some people and ignore that.
Well, it doesn't cause just some people, it causes many, many, many people. It's very painful for a lot of people to listen and see that name.
I think where we, and to Mr. Avenbark's point, I think where we need to be careful is in our desire to have a name that on the school where all students, staff, and the community can at least be comfortable with, that we do not tarnish the name of an entire family. And I think that was the point of the letter. So I think as we walk down this path, that we do walk down it carefully and considerately for the family. But the fact remains that the history of the grandfather exists in that lobby of the school. So I think that we have to be mindful of that. We also have to be mindful of the fact that we just made a policy that says that the schools have to be named after the geographical area. Parsley would not be a geographical area name. So my proposal would be that tonight we vote to open up the process for that 60-day timeline, and that we open it up to nominations from the community, and that those nominations would have to conform to our current policy, which would be a geographical area. And that at the end of that 60-day timeline, the board would then decide on that name based on those votes, or based on the input from the community. We would then, to give the school time, and to give the school community time, the new name would take effect at the start of the 21-22 school year, because this would give this would give the principal, the administration, the staff, the students time to come back and decide on the school mascot, whether to change the colors, how to have the dialogue with each other and the community, and what to do about the change. Right now, the most important thing in front of every school is the educational needs of the students, the social emotional needs. That's not to say to me that this is not an important decision, but this has to take, this needs time, and I think that we have to give them that time. So that would be my proposal. I've also talked to Mr. Anderson about the cost aspect of it. So, Mr. Anderson, would you mind talking to the board about what that would entail?
Sure. I don't think the cost in a name change from the school building perspective would be that much. We're talking about the monument sign on the road, the signage on the building, and the dedication plaque. I had estimated that to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 to $12,000, and it'd be easy for us to make those changes.
Madam Chair, I'm inclined to agree with your position. I know 10 to 12,000 doesn't sound like a lot. You heard in the call to the audience tonight all the things that go into COVID-19, Plan C, Plan B. I want every single dollar possible to be used to get our kids back safely and healthy, and to educate them when they're not. So I think that your proposal is a wise one.
I agree. I support putting it out to the community for some suggestions. I guess what my question would be to give the community some guidance on that. How would the board narrow down? Let's say we get 50 different options. I mean, something like Masonboro Elementary, Loop Elementary, whether it's Southeast Elementary. How would we narrow it down then to make a final decision? What does it look like?
A lot of times when things like this occur, and this is not the first time it's happened, the students and the community pick the name, and they actually make a big event about having ownership of that process. So since we are taking our time on this, That's the best way to explore it, as opposed to it, and then we could finalize whatever it is that the school itself decides on. Because ownership's very powerful, especially considering the whole situation.
But the policy indicates the board will make the final decision.
Yeah, we make the final decision. but
When we did Porter's Neck Elementary, we provided an opportunity online for anyone to make a suggestion. And we had quite a few. A lot of names were submitted as well as location. And then the board narrowed it down and determined that location was a better fit for it. And because since, as it was mentioned, since Veterans Park, which was 20-some years ago, we have named all the new schools after for a location. So Castle Hayne, Holly Shelter, all of them. So, and of course Porter's Neck. So yeah, the board is responsible for making the final decision, but we certainly need input from certainly the families that attend, the community around the school.
I don't know that the Board of Education, the New Hanover County Commissioners reached out to anybody to find out what to rename Hugh McCray Park.
No, they did not.
They're not us.
No, huh?
I said,
You
they're
are?
not us. I think we're doing it properly this way.
Are we?
If we're getting community input from the kids that'll be attending and the people in that area, yes, instead of just arbitrary, or not necessarily arbitrarily, but doing it without input from the community.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If everybody's got so much a problem with the name Parsley School, what would be the problem with naming it Masonboro Elementary School? Who
That might
could have a
work
problem
fine.
with that?
That might work great, but let the community have input. They're gonna need ownership. They already have ownership with Parsley. Now that the name's being changed, I really believe that the community should have a voice.
Judy, what would you suggest?
The community's voice. I don't live over there. My kids don't go there. But if they did, I would love for them to have input on it.
I'm just wondering what, other than Masonboro or Masonboro Loop
That might be it.
Elementary School?
We
I
don't
can't
know yet.
imagine what would be any different than that. I'm done. Go ahead.
Bill,
Yeah,
we might be surprised. The community,
I
we have
don't
a
know,
very
yeah.
creative community.
Mhm.
And
I would be real surprised. I've lived here 67 years. I know all the schools in Wilmington, and take that one, not the name Parsley, but to take that one and say, oh, we're going to name it this and this and this. I think that's the most foolish thing I've ever heard in my life.
What might
If
be
you want to,
Masonboro?
if
That's-
you, wait a minute, Judy. If you want, in the policy we just got through talking about, we were talking about naming things after where the schools were. So why would you not name it Masonboro Elementary School?
No, I
What,
don't live
what
in that
else would you
district.
be, what else would you be looking for?
You live in the district, Bill, because the people that live in the district might have geographic locations that mean, I'm just giving them the opportunity to have a voice.
You
Well,
talking about the people down in this district down here?
I
Go to
think,
Parsley.
Or the entire county?
I think the point is that we are going to have the 60-day timeline to collect that information. And so that at the end of that information, I think what I'm hearing is that there's some concern that we may get 10 names back. So if there is 10 names, or if there are 10 names back, do we want to decide that we're going to only look at the top 5 or top 3, or do we want to look at all 10?
But
So
it can't be
that-
named, but it cannot be named after anybody, right?
That is correct.
That's not what we're
So
talking about.
It has
It
to
can't be named
conform
after
with policy.
anybody. It's gotta be named after a destination or.
Right.
Geographic area,
location.
correct.
Correct.
Right.
So
No,
Lisa-
it can't be named after anybody.
So Ms.
Lisa?
Stagner, do we, since it doesn't spell out in policy that we would have, we have any kind of constraints on if there are 100 names turned in, we only look at the top 3 in terms of the top 3 vote getters.
No.
Can we decide what we're going to do ahead of time?
You certainly can. I mean, the policy just calls for public comment and input. It doesn't call for a vote. It doesn't call for any specific procedure. So it's really, you are hearing from the public and then you can make a determination. So you can decide now, or you can decide in 60 days how you will narrow down the input. And it may be that there are dozens, it may be that there are just 1 or 2.
Okay.
Is it possible that we could open the community input between now and the next board meeting? And that would be 30 days? Well, I guess not, because we've been cut down, but between now and the next board meeting, and then whatever maybe we see what we're getting the most of, then cutting it down to a list then, and then letting additional public input with the finalists go for those final 30?
The policy gives the board, the policy you've just adopted gives you a great deal of flexibility in how you carry it out. It requires it to be on the agenda 60 days, and then you name it, and it has to be a geographic term. So.
And that also would be if the school itself, if the population of the school, as part of that 60 days, and actually within the school facility itself, were to be part of the discussion and give us some suggestions and maybe their top decision, that would be part of the process. We could do it that way also, correct? And then we could decide.
Again, the board has a great deal of flexibility in how to accept and consider the public comment.
Ms. Stagner, the policy calls for public comment. I'm unclear as to whether or not we can limit the public we hear from to a single school.
No, I don't think we could.
I don't think so.
So this would have to be a conversation that takes place in New Hanover County as a whole. Is that correct? Is that what the policy says?
The policy just provides for public input and comment. Certainly, the board could decide that if there was a vote of all the students at the current Parsley Elementary School, that you might give greater weight to that. But the policy allows comment just very generally.
Okay, thank you.
I think that we need to provide that opportunity. We have 60 days. I don't think that we should make a decision on how the limitation or limiting their number or how we're going to rate them, because maybe the name that was listed the most may not be one that the board feels really serves that community. So,
We do not know.
Why don't
No,
we choose 3
don't know.
names at the next board meeting?
Because then that-
and also they may give us, because we've already received some really interesting comments about the new mascot and some logos that were submitted, or a logo that was submitted. So we'll need that kind of input, but I don't think we want to make a decision tonight on exactly how we're going to. We just right now received the recommendations.
So how about we do this? Can we vote on the recommendation first? So let's, if that's acceptable.
To rename.
Pardon?
To rename?
Yes.
Yes.
The proposal as, as stated, and then decide how we're going to advertise it. So is there a motion to approve the proposal?
Move for approval, Mr. Boyer?
Second, Stephanie Adams.
All right, there's a motion and a second. I believe we've already had the discussion. So,
Miss Eastep,
aye?
Mr. Wortman, Miss Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Boyer,
Aye.
Miss Justice,
Aye.
Miss Nichols,
Aye.
and Mr. Ravenbark.
No.
Motion passes 5-1. Now, as for the advertising, I think in the past, Ms. Nichols, is this correct? We put it on the website?
Yes.
Okay, and then we can also, I would assume, put it on social media. I think the question is, do we put it, in what format would we put it out there as open comment in terms of any, as long as we would have to state what the policy is, that it has to be geographic in nature? Or to Mr. Boyer's suggestion, that you put specific names out there? And then also a blank space for like a write-in. What is the will of the board?
I think having Mason Borough and Mason Borough Loop on there makes sense just because they're going to be suggestions. I mean, if it's a geographic location, they're going to be suggestions. And then if members of the community can come up with something really interesting, put it on there.
You also have Whiskey Trail, you have Trails End.
Right, there's a lot going on down there.
Yeah.
That's, people that go there know these things that we
Right.
don't, or I don't.
Whiskey Trail's a bar. That won't work.
Creek.
But I can tell you this, 100 years ago, the people that lived down on Masonboro Sound were called the Sounders, because that's all they did was fish, shrimp, clam, and whatever, and carried all their stuff downtown and sold it. And I don't know that Sounders would be a great name, but my other thought was, is if, when we change the name, is there something in place for if the Parsley sue us?
I did not get the feeling from any of their communication that that was even consideration on their part.
Oh, it is, Judy, it is. I've talked to one of them.
Talk to them. Well, I was talking about the communication we received.
Well, I communicated with them and they told me they did not want the name changed.
Oh, well, I believe, I'm just saying that we received in the letter forms.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering, is there anything in place in case they do sue us?
I don't know that there's anything you can put in place. We have the information that we've got. You know, certainly we can continue the conversation with them. And as I stated, I think we need to walk down this path carefully so that we're not tarnishing the family name. But
Okay.
there is a lot of information that shows that the school was named after the grandfather, including we've got in our, as head of our maintenance and operations, the person that arranged for the sale of the land. So, you know, I take your point. I wish that, I hope that they will engage in conversation, and I would love to talk to them about how we can get them more comfortable with this.
Okay, I understand.
So if we put out names, Masonboro School or Masonboro Loop Elementary, is that saying to the people, well, they've already decided?
Yeah, we need to keep it blank. Let them give input. Don't, 60 days, and why suddenly 30 days, this discussion about voting next meeting? I thought we were going to give it 60 days.
What I was saying was that if we had a lot of input and a lot of choices, 30 days in, to then narrow it down based on how many, if there was repetitive ones, to then give input for the top choices.
Well, yeah, at this point though, with COVID going on and everything else.
I just say, like you, Judy, I'm saying 60 days, we'll get many of the same, I'm sure.
That'll be easy to whittle down. I mean,
you know, you can't, there are only so many locations that you can use to name that school where it is, so.
But since we're talking about a year-long process, I don't understand why to rush. That's what I'm saying. And you're right about the names. There's only going to be, it probably won't be hard at all to do once, you know.
No.
We can be like the Washington Redskins. We can be the Washington football team.
Well, it's not a rush. The PTA, the administration, the community, there's a lot to decide once you change the name. So, not to mention they're, obviously still doing their job. So it's not a rush. You can't tell them in July, this is what your name's gonna be. We have to, I think.
We're talking 60 days, not 6 months.
At the November board meeting, I think that's a reasonable timetable.
October is, I don't understand the rush. I really don't.
Well, per the policy we just adopted, we have it open for 60 days, and then the board will have to make the decision at that point. So it's still going to be probably September, October, probably the November meeting, as Mr. Bowyer said, before we would make the decision on what the name would be. And then at that point, the school would take over to decide, the school, the PTA, to have the discussion from there. So
Why October wouldn't work.
I agree. I think that's a great thing, Lisa.
So it sounds
I think
like
we can find some way to recognize the family who agreed to sell us the land.
I think that was the discussion that we were having is the changing what is in the lobby now to a more comprehensive history of the land itself.
Yes.
And of the history of the of Masonboro School, of the Parsley family. So it's a much more comprehensive history of that that area and that geography. And so that's what you would see when you walked into the school.
Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that would let them know that how much we appreciate having the support of the family, and that we appreciate having the land. Mm-hmm. I can tell you this, I remember that school because I was staying out, I thought was way out in the country, but it was off Kelly Road, staying with a family during the summertime, and we walked to that little school because someone had a party, and we cleaned up and we walked to the sound, and it seemed like a long distance, but it was not. But it was
a lot shorter.
Beautiful little school.
So I think what I'm hearing is that we want to leave it open-ended and let the community write in the name that they choose. And we're going to keep it open for 60 days.
No, wait a minute. The community's going to choose it?
The community's not going to choose it. The community's going to...
Fine arbiters.
Right. The board is still going to choose it, but they're going to be able to write in their choices.
Okay.
So,
and Ann can work with getting this out on the website, make it very easy for people to find it and to submit to recommend their name, the suggested name of the school.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
Ms. Gibson? Ms. Gibson, are you still on the meeting?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Would you be able to take care of that so that it would be on all of our social media channels?
Yes, we can do that and post it on the website as well.
Okay. All right.
And make sure the policy is available so they understand how it's a geographical location that we're looking for a name.
Yes, we'll include that background. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. If there is no further discussion, I think we have agreement and a pathway forward. So thank you, everyone, for that discussion.
Sorry to be a butthead, but I just...
You're not. You have an opinion, and I appreciate you sharing it.
You definitely, that's why you're here, Bill. You're doing what you're supposed to do.
Because I'm a butthead.
No, you're not, but you're speaking for people that want you to speak for. That's why you're here.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome, Bill.
Item 14, new business. Item A, North Carolina Education Lottery applications for 2021 capital construction.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Tonight, we're asking for your approval of North Carolina Education Lottery applications for the fiscal year 2020-21 capital construction projects. These are construction needs that were identified in the capital budget process and approved by the Board of Education. They include some HVAC replacement. This is phase 2 at Alderman. We would like to begin repainting the interior at Ashley. Some metal wall panel and roof repair at Ashley. HVAC upgrades at Lake Forest, Laney High School. Safety improvements that were a recommendation from our safety and security assessment. Upgrades in our fire alarm panels at various campuses. Some drainage improvements at Williston Middle School, and finally some HVAC improvements at Wrightsboro Elementary School. So asking for your approval, and with that, with your approval, we would then forward these to the county commissioners for consideration and to the State Board of Education as well.
All right, are there any questions, discussion?
I can't believe Eddie Anderson would ever ask us to do anything that wasn't above board, so I'm gonna go ahead and say yes.
Mr. Anderson, was it a group that decided on the priority list?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I've actually gone over, not this particular process, with Mr. Anderson and what goes on behind the scenes. They do a great job, they do. They work really hard to make sure that money's spent wisely and where it's needed. I just wanted to throw that in there since I have been part of the process. Not part of it, but at least seen it in action.
All right, if there is no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the recommendations as listed.
Move for approval, Mr. Boyer.
Second, Judy Justice.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions?
Lisa Eastep,
Aye.
David Wortman, Stephanie Adams,
Aye.
Nelson Boyer,
Aye.
Judy Justice,
Aye.
Jeanette Nichols,
Aye.
and Bill Ravenbark.
Aye.
Thank
Is
you.
Mr. Anderson still at, oh, he's still at the podium, good.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess I will. We've received several emails about the condition of Brogdon Hall and the floor, and I know you responded to one email. Could you address that topic?
That's actually that's further down our list.
Yeah,
in terms of items.
that's a
okay.
capital outlay budget transfer
right, I didn't see
that
that.
will fund the replacement of the Brogdon Hall gym floor.
Okay.
I'll be
good.
glad to answer your questions at that time.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, do you want to just stay up there and do item C while you're
It's
there?
Mary Hazel.
Oh, that's Mary Hazel, okay.
Sure. Come on.
Okay, good.
Yep. Why don't you guys go ahead and do item C?
So for item C, which is the capital outlay transfers, the first of two transfers is to transfer $200,000 of project savings from various bond projects to fund a new project for the Brogdon Hall gym floor replacement. Originally, this was scheduled for a repair, but the cost of the repairs exceeded half of the value of the floor, so we thought it was, Mr. Anderson thought that it was the best option to go ahead and replace it now. The second transfer is, you may remember that we previously budgeted a water filtration system for elementary schools, but that was determined it was best to lease that, which will be a annual cost of less than what we had in capital. So we're repurposing the capital funds to do some of we sort of traded some projects from the small project funds in our general fund to capital, and then picked up the next project on our capital outlay priority list, which was the Pine Valley mobile door replacement for almost $96,000. So if you have any questions for Mr. Anderson, we're glad to answer them.
No, thank you for the savings,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson and Ms. Small. Thank you very much.
So these were all, I think what you had answered was the Brogdon Hall gym floor, those, we were able to do that because we realized savings in other areas from other renovations.
Right.
Ms. Nichols, was that your question about
Yes,
the?
yes, thank you. And I appreciate all the people that were concerned and shared their comments in a very positive way.
I just have one additional question for the water filtration systems. What is the timeline for installation for the leased units?
Right. The units have been delivered to our warehouse. Our maintenance staff are prepping those units now, and the company is putting together a list or a schedule for installation. We were hoping initially that they would all be installed for the first day of school, which would be Monday. We're probably about a month behind that schedule, and but fortunately or unfortunately, we will not have kids in the building, and we will have those units installed before students return to the building.
Great, thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Sure, thank you.
And Mary Hazel, I like this new schedule, the way that you have the budget transfers.
Sorry, a little bit louder.
I like the way that you have this new budget transfer form.
Oh, good.
Yep, it's very clear and concise, so I appreciate that. Are there any other questions?
I would just like to say to Mary Hazel that a majority of the applicants that applied for superintendent wanted to meet you. You're the first person they wanted to meet because you were the best they had ever seen in finance. And I just want to congratulate you, and you do such a great job, and thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you, Mr.
we're
Roberts.
very, very proud of you
Thank you.
and confident.
All right, if there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the capital outlay project transfers as recommended.
Move to approve the transfers, Mr. Boyer.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Stephanie Adams.
Thank you. Any further discussion or compliments? All right, hearing none.
No, I'm done with all of mine.
Yeah.
Miss Eastep,
Aye.
Mr. Wortman, Miss Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Bullier,
Aye.
Miss Justice,
Aye.
Miss Nichols,
Aye.
and Mr. Ravenbark.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Motion passes 6-0. We will go back to item B, AT&T Connectivity Service Contract. Ms. Brinson?
Yes, this is the contract that will give us connectivity for our 1,550 hotspots that we purchased last spring for student and teacher use. So I am requesting the board to approve the participating addendum under the NASCO Value Point Wireless Communication Services and Equipment Master Agreement number MA149, pending final approval of terms and conditions by the board attorney. I have been working with Mr. Malone on this, and today we had some conversations with AT&T to get the last few little terms and conditions worked out. I think tomorrow we'll have that done. So I'm requesting that you guys approve. The approval that I'm asking you for is for all of them, but we will not activate all of them at one time. My plan is to do it in like segments. So that way, if we don't need them all, then we won't be paying for them all. Okay?
So this was what, I mean, you said we had enough devices to cover our students, but this was an area of need in the spring, is that correct?
Yes, this is the actual hotspots.
Right.
This isn't the computers or iPads. This is the actual, what will give them connectivity.
Right, okay, great.
And in addition, Ms. Brinson, will there also be connectivity at the schools? Are we doing any of those, the Wi-Fi hotspots at the schools or parking lots in addition to these hotspots?
Yes, we still have those, and I feel comfortable saying now we have been working with some community companies, Live Oak Bank and a couple other ones, that they are actually reaching out to some facilities that do child centers, and they're meeting with them, and they've got a vendor coming in to try and increase their connectivity, because these are some child care centers that are saying that, the kids could go there and do remote learning. So that group is meeting with them, visiting the facility, seeing what their needs are, and they've already got a vendor lined up to do any work that needs to be done. So that way, those children who participate in those child care centers will actually have connectivity there also.
I appreciate the amount of effort that's going in to make sure that all of our students have connectivity during this remote time. So just thank you. I know this has been a lot of work. It's a lot of partnership. Thank you very much for all that you've been doing.
Yeah, it has definitely been a county effort. It has been, everybody working together.
It takes a village. Ms. Brinson, quickly, is this CARES Act funding?
That would be a Mary Hazel question.
I'm just curious.
I'm going to give you an accurate answer tomorrow, but I think that it's a combination of some of the it's federal money that we received through the Coronavirus Relief Fund is for part of it, and then part of it might also be CARES Act, but I think it came from the Coronavirus Relief Fund.
Thank you very much.
I will verify that tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no further comments or questions, I would ask for a motion to approve the recommendation for the contract with AT&T.
Move for approval, Mr. Boyer.
Is there a
Second, Mr. Ravenmark.
There's a motion and a second. I believe we've already had the discussion.
Ms. Eastep,
Aye.
Mr. Wortman, Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Boyer,
Aye.
Ms. Justice,
Sorry, aye.
Ms. Nichols,
Aye.
and Mr. Ravenbark.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Motion passes 6-0, and thank you, Ms. Brinson, for that work on that, and to all the partners that made that happen. All right, next, item D, contract for school-based mental health. Says Ms. Farnham, but I believe Dr. Burns, you're going to handle that?
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair. I'll handle the next three contracts. All three relate to the services provided to students for this school year. The first is a contract for school-based mental health. It's with New Hanover County Public Health to provide 16 therapists and 1 supervisor. The schools are assigned based on mental health needs of students in partnership with parents and among the clients who cannot participate in no-cost billing. Last year, 863 students were provided service in 20 schools. School assignments for the coming year will be based on the caseload needs. The contract is provided as information for you, and the projected cost for this year for the service is $680,000. There is funding available in the budget for the coming year.
thank you. Are there any questions about this contract? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the recommendation for the mental health, public health contract.
Move to approve. Mr. Boyer.
Second, Stephanie Adams.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Again, are there any questions?
Ms. Eastep?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman? Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
And Mr. Ravenbark.
Mr. Rivenbark? No? All right. Well, we've lost him, so the motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chair and members of the board, the next contract is the contract for school health nurses for New Hanover County, public schools provided through New Hanover County. The contract allows for 35 full-time, 6 part-time nurses at 10 months, so they are 10-month employees to support each of the schools in New Hanover County Schools. This does include an additional school nurse for the new school, Porter's Neck, so that is an addition. And the contract is provided for your information. If you have questions, I'll be glad to respond to them.
Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the contract for school health nurses.
Move to approve. Mr. Boyer.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Judy Justice.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Ms. Eastep?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman? Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
And Mr. Ravenbark.
Motion passes 5-0.
And the final contract this evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, is for SRO Services for preschool and elementary schools in New Hanover County Schools. The funding for this service is provided by a combination of the North Carolina Safe Schools Grant with near matching dollars from the county, meaning it provides the service at virtually no cost to New Hanover County Schools, and provides 11 school resource officers to be used in all of the elementary and preschools in the district. The contract, again, is attached for your information, and I'll be glad to respond to any questions that you may have.
Dr. Burns.
Yes, ma'am.
Currently, because of the virtual learning and the schools not having students in them, and they won't until the second 9 weeks, what will be the, I guess you say, is there any way we can utilize these SROs in a different way that'd be more responsive to the communities instead of monitoring empty schools? Except for teachers that might be there?
A conversation was held recently, and the Sheriff's Department offered to provide all of the SROs for access and have them in the buildings during the remote learning time. They also indicated that if that wasn't a need, that they had duties that they could perform in the community. And after discussions with senior staff and with Mr. Spencer, your Director of Safety, the decision has been made to have them available as needed, but be used by the Sheriff's Department until such time that there are students back in the buildings.
Thank you.
And Dr. Burns, I just have a question. Obviously, the schools are broken down into high priority, medium, and low. And can you just explain how those assignments were chosen?
I can't hear you too well, Ms. Adams. Is the question about the assignment of priorities to the schools?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. You have 11 officers and you have multiples of that in terms of coverage. And so looking at the size of the schools and the support that is perceived and determined to be necessary for safety inside and outside of the building, priorities were assigned. And so you have high priority, medium priority, and low priority schools. That just provides something of a way for the use of the SROs to occur, but they can shift as needed from one school, one level of priority to another.
I appreciate that.
Certainly. Any other questions I might answer?
Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the contract for SRO Services.
Move for approval. Mr. Boyer?
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second the motion, Jeanette Nichols.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Ms. Eastep?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman? Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
And Mr. Ravenbark.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 6-0. Item 15, correspondence. Is there any correspondence any board member would like to share?
Just briefly from the Complete Count Committee, fill out your census if you have not done so already. They are going to end door-to-door census data collection a month early. So if you haven't filled out your census, please do so. It's very important in terms of our federal funding here in New Hanover County.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Item 16, announcements. We have a policy committee meeting on Tuesday, August 11th. Wait, that was today, sorry.
But we will have one
Yes.
September the 8th,
September the 8th, okay, so we will announce
9
it.
o'clock.
All right, thank you. The Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee will meet on Monday, August 17th at 5 p.m. at the Board of Ed Center and also virtually. The next regular Board of Education meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. And at all these meetings, attendance will be strictly limited to no more than 10 people, which is recommended by the CDC. And the general public will have the option to view remotely via live streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and online at NHCS TV. All right, with that, we will go back into closed session. Ms. Stagner, do I need to announce again the statutes?
I think you can say for the reasons previously announced.
Okay, for the reasons previously announced, is there a motion to go back into closed session?
Move for closed session, Mr. Boyer.
Is there a second?
Second, Bill Ravenmark.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bowie?
Ms. Eastep?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman? Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
And Mr. Ravenbark.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. All right, we are back, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Boyer.
Thank you. Is there a second?
The motion. Second the motion, Jeanette Nichols.
All right, Ms. Nichols, did you say that you're the second?
Yes.
Yes,
All right,
please.
Thank you. All right, there's a motion, a second. Any discussion? Oh, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Bowie.
Ms. Eastep?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman? Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Ms. Justice,
Aye.
Ms. Nichols,
Aye.
and Mr. Ravenbark.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. Good job.